Hi, my name's Terry, and I'm going to teach you how to do calligraphy. Now, this is not meant for those that are professionals. It's meant for those that would like to learn how to learn some quick and easy steps on getting their calligraphy a little bit better. And all it's going to take is basically 4 things. So the first thing we're going to learn is those 4 things. So before we get started, let me show you what you're going to need. Well, first of all, you're going to need an exercise book like this. It can be an exercise book as long as it has lines in it. That's all you'll need. And then the other thing you're going to need is a set of calligraphy pens, felt tip. That's all you need. Usually I like to buy the ones that have 2 tips. One is probably about a 3 millimeter. The other one's 1 millimeter. So these will be just as good. Now, first of all, we're going to start out in black. So we're going to use our black pens only. So make sure you have a really good supply and that you keep those black pens on hand, and that's how we're going to get started. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do some calligraphy. Okay, so here we go. In the introduction I told you that we were going to learn the 4 basics of calligraphy, and I'm actually using a thing called a hat can, which I designed. It's basically duct tape and a baseball cap. So if it gets a little bit wobbly, please try to ignore that. I'll try to keep my head as steady as I can. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is the kind of pens that we're going to use. And I already showed you in the introduction video that we're going to be using felt tips. And basically I like to use 2 different kinds. The one is called a Zig. It's a Zig memory system, and these are one of the best felt tip calligraphy pens out there. And as you can see, they're acid-free, they're archival quality. There's no acid in there at all. They're photo safe, so you can actually write in photographs with these. And I prefer to use these for pretty much everything I do. And that's the first type. The second type that we like to look at and to use is these Callipen calligraphy pens. Now, most of you scrapbookers out there will know these pens because this comes usually in some kind of scrapbooking kit, which my wife does. She's been a scrapbooker for a few years now, and she prefers these pens. So we can use either this pen or the Zig. Now, it depends on how far into this you want to go, but we will, in another lesson, we'll be talking about the selection of hard tip calligraphy pens later on in this video series. So let's go ahead and get started, and excuse the wobble a little bit while I change things over. And basically we're going to be using our calligraphy book, and as you see I put my calligraphy book on here, and then also we're going to be using a piece of cardboard. Now this cardboard is 7.5 by 11 inches, and the reason we're going to do that is to stop bleed through, because we're using lined paper, the bleed through might come onto the other page, so we want to stop that. So we're going to be using this piece of cardboard as a stopper from the bleed through. So let's go ahead and look at those 4 things that I talked about in the introduction video. The first thing we need to know is that the way to hold the pen is at a 45-degree angle. Now, you know that 45 degrees is pretty much, if you draw a line like this and this, the 45-degree angle is here. So if you see my pen right now and you follow this pen, it's at a 45-degree angle. So we're going to keep it like that. Now, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do is try to do calligraphy this way. Okay, you see that with the wrist movement? We need to learn a different way of doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the pen in more of this style. So where you're using the whole hand instead of the wrist. The wrist is not so much stiff as a little bit stiffer than it would be if you were using it as a writing instrument before. So let's go ahead and look at the first 4 strokes. And the first stroke we're going to look at is this one here. And we're just going to do a straight stroke right now. We're not really doing italics, so we're just looking at that stroke. So the first stroke you look at is this one. This is the first basic stroke of calligraphy. Now, you're going to be using this one a lot, especially on the A's, the G's, the Q's, and the P's. All right? And then the next stroke we're going to look at is this one here, which is basically the straight stroke going across like this. And then the next one we're going to look at is the downstroke, like this. All right? So we have 1, 2, 3, and these are the first 3 strokes. And then the last stroke we're going to look at is this one right here, which usually stands down on the the descender line just below the baseline here. And then you can, this one can actually be used in this instance too, where we're looking at this type of configuration. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then we have the fourth one right here. So this one and this one are basically the fourth stroke. So there you have your 4 strokes. So let's put that together and see what kind of letter we can create with that. So we're going to start with a simple letter, and I'm going to use all 4 of these strokes to show you how simple this really is. And we're going to do the letter G. Okay, I'm going to pull that, 2, 3, and 4. So there you have the letter G. So I'm going to stop the video right here and go on to the next set of the lesson. And then I'm going to give you time to kind of practice this. And the more you make these strokes, the better you become and the better you can join them together. So now that you've had a chance to kind of look at the 4 strokes we have, remember we did the down and up stroke, we did the straight stroke, the descender stroke, and below the descender and above the descender we form the letter G. So let's go ahead and look at some other letters that we can use these 4 strokes on. And what I want to do in this first lesson is just basically go through the kind of strokes that use 1 stroke, the kind of letters that use a 2 stroke, and the kind of letters that use a 3 stroke, and the kind of letters that use a 4 stroke. And we're going to be doing this in different lessons. So on lesson 1, we're basically going to look at the single stroke. Now, the single stroke actually only incorporates 3 letters, and that is the letter I, the letter J, and the letter L. So basically we're doing a single stroke here. So let me go through those one more time. Now we don't count these as stroke because they're really just dots above the I and the J. So we're not going to count those. And we're going to later on get into doing flourishes and continuing a stroke. So we could actually add the second stroke on the L, but we don't need to at this point because we're actually just doing these single strokes. So we're going to go through that again. So we're going to look at the I, the J, and the L. And there you have it. So you basically got different ways of doing that. So you can actually do a really rounded line, or you can come up as a straight tick. There's different ways of doing that. You can do the same thing with the I too. So you can actually do it like that if you want to. Or you can even start out this way. And that's still considered a single stroke because you're coming up and down. And the same thing with the J. Okay? And the same thing with the L. And we can extend that a little bit if we want to. So there you have the first few letters that we learned about here. And then what we're going to do next, I'm going to stop the video again just a little bit so that you can kind of practice this. And it's just kind of like going back to school, really, where you're just doing letters over and over again. And then on the next set of videos, we're actually going to be doing some other letters that contain the 2 strokes. So it's these 2 right here. All right, so we're going to stop it. Okay, so now you've had time to practice these strokes right here, and we practiced on the A, J, and L. So the I, J, and L, I, J, and L. So now we've had time to practice this, and by the way, this is supposed to be the number 4, and this is an arrow. These aren't different strokes, so it's only still 1, 2, 3, and 4. I was just showing you what you could use it for in the on the baseline. So in fact, speaking of lines, I'm now going to spell out a word for you, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use all 4 of these in one word. So first of all, I want to explain to you what these lines are. So this line right here is going to be your ascender. That's your ascender line right here. So that's your ascender. This will be your midline. So this will be your mid or your lowercase line. Okay, and this is your baseline. We'll put BL for that. And this is your descender. Now, they're not always going to be this width. We're just doing this in the exercise book to give you some practice so that you don't have to keep drawing lines every time. Because sometimes these are going to vary based on what kind of type you're doing. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you a word, and I'm going to put this word into using the 4 different strokes that we showed you already, and then that will conclude lesson 1. So what we're going to do, we're going to start out, and we're going to use lowercase, and after the first 5 or 6 lessons, we're going to get into the uppercase, and then we're going to show you the same definitions there. So we're still going to use these 4 basic strokes in the uppercase, but they're going to be used in a different way. So let's go ahead and do a word here. So starting out on your midline, we're going to put the word in here. So first of all, we're going to do the letter C, and we're going to use that 1-2 stroke, okay? And then we're going to come down here. So we have the word C and A, and you probably guessed already what I'm going to do. So now we're at the ascender line. We want to bring this down, so we're going to do this single stroke again. And we're going to bring that up. Okay, so now we have the letters C, A, and we have the letters L, L. And then we're going to come here and do our I. And then we're going to do our G, starting at the base again. And we're going to come down to the descender line. And we're actually going to use that little trick we showed you before on the 4th stroke. And then we're going to do a letter R. Okay. And we're going to do a letter A again. And then the letter P. The letter H. And I'm going to do a little bit of a flourish here and then show you what we talked about before. And then the letter Y. I'm going to start again, come down to the baseline. And then we can do the same thing with the Y as we did with the G. And there you have the word calligraphy. Okay, so basically that's going to end the lesson for today. And so I'm going to say goodbye for this lesson. And I'm just going to sign my name right here. And that ends the lesson for today.